2024 will be a year of challenges for the United States. As the country prepares to undergo a new electoral process, authorities do not want to allow that to serve as a distraction that could be exploited by its enemies. From Washington, it is asserted that the principal military superpower must be ready for a possible armed conflict. In fact, not just one, but two fronts are being discussed, none other than Russia and China. The potential adversaries of the American forces are the nations that complete the podium of global powers, and there is no doubt that they have the capabilities to pose challenges to the Americans. For this reason, in this new video, we aim to explore the possibilities of a confrontation between these countries during the year 2024. We invite you to discover who is better prepared to claim victory in this potential conflict. One consistently controversial figure among world leaders is the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Towards the end of 2023, during an interview with Kremlin journalist Pavel Zarubin, the president addressed the possibilities of war between the United States and either his country or the Asian giant. Not putting much belief in the theories of potential armed conflict, he stated, "Fighting both with Russia and with China is nonsense. I don't think it's anything serious. I think they are just scaring each other." However, he assured that if a war were to occur, they would be prepared, and the scenario would be very different from that of Ukraine. In this regard, on that battlefield, Moscow's forces have shown several problems, and the conflict has extended much further than anticipated. Nevertheless, the Kremlin considers it a special military operation and not a war, as it would be against another nuclear power. That said, what happens on Ukrainian territory is the first possible trigger for our analysis. The United States has sent billions of dollars in equipment to arm the Kyiv forces, and that is one of the main reasons why the country was able to put up a powerful resistance against the invaders. Both the actions of the United States and its NATO partners, along with the international sanctions imposed on Russia, have generated increasingly deep tensions, which could lead to a large-scale conflict.
El mundo debe ser más justo y no basarse en el dictado de un solo país que cree ser el representante de Dios en la tierra, o quizás incluso estar por encima de Dios.
Upon hearing Putin speak about the United States, we understand that it only takes one party to make a decision threatening enough for the other side. Thus, indeed, we would be talking about a very dangerous scenario of war for the entire planet. Now, perhaps Washington's greatest fear is not its historical rival, but its new major threat, China. For several years, the Asian country has maintained uninterrupted development in different areas, and the military is no exception. Beijing's growth worries the West, and on more than one occasion, a potential confrontation has been predicted, often prompted by the situation in Taiwan. China claims sovereignty over the island and conducts military exercises in the surrounding areas, while the United States reaffirms its promise to support and defend the island state's independence. Once again, we find ourselves facing an extremely sensitive scenario. Any misstep by either party will be enough to bring out heavy artillery and gauge where each power stands. This panorama of conflicting interests and tensions leads Washington to reflect. It knows it needs to be prepared to face two supposed wars at the same time, and in this situation, the first step is to continue allocating resources to national defense. The United States will seek to fulfill this premise during 2024 with a substantial increase in its military budget. The country's Congress has already approved a sum of $886 billion, representing a 16% increase over the $761 billion in 2023. Of the total allocated for the new period, $842 billion will be allocated to Pentagon programs, $32.5 billion to nuclear weapons programs, and $11.5 billion for other national security plans. Additionally, outside of this budget, $14.7 billion is earmarked for the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. In a few words, Uncle Sam is increasing its spending to boost American military presence on the other side of the world, in a region where it can counter any intention from China. This is a clear signal of the concern posed by the Asian nation, prompting Washington to consider deploying missiles in the Indo-Pacific during 2024. The alternative being considered includes installing land-based versions of the Standard Missile-6, also known as the SM-6, and the Tomahawk cruise missile. These options would provide attack capabilities with ranges of between 500 and 2,700 kilometers and could be used from the U.S. base in Guam. Here we can see the power of these projectiles in a series of tests by the U.S. Navy. But this is not the only project for the warfare of the future that the Pentagon is preparing. The U.S. Department of Defense quietly launched a new program to develop the capability to release thousands of autonomous drones on land, sea, and air to overwhelm and dominate enemy defenses. The name of the program is AMIS, which stands for Adaptive Multi-Domain Autonomous Swarming System. Despite seeming redundant, it is the best way to express the multitude of weapons that Washington includes to leave no option for its victims. While much of the drone's capabilities remain secret, the plan aims for unmanned aerial vehicles loaded with explosives or weaponry to be guided by artificial intelligence. In addition, they will operate in large groups, not giving defenses enough time to shoot down so many threats together. To conclude with the U.S. side, we cannot overlook that the country continues to top the global military ranking. This is due to its possession of some of the most modern and powerful armament developments in the world. Speaking of its ground forces, it's impossible to ignore a legend like the M1 Abrams. This is one of the most famous tanks on the planet, and despite its long history, it has been modernized several times to remain among the most potent. Furthermore, its operational history also provides it with the experience to take to the battlefield. It has been a key asset for Americans in many conflict scenarios in recent decades, such as the Iraq War or the war in Afghanistan. When considering the U.S. Air Force, quantity is important, but even more so is the quality of its aircraft. Washington has around 2,000 combat fighters, among which stand out the two most advanced in their class. We are talking about the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Lightning II, fifth-generation jets that, in addition to avionics and the best weaponry, have stealth capabilities that make them difficult to detect by rival systems. Thus, they can attack strategic locations and inflict terrible damage on their enemies without even being seen. Lastly, in naval terms, the United States Navy is the only one with 11 supercarriers in its possession. As if that weren't enough, it's not only the largest fleet but also the most advanced, with 100,000 tons of displacement, nuclear propulsion, and electromagnetic catapults to operate more than 75 aircraft. The carriers are also complemented by around 70 destroyers and a similar number of submarines, including its nuclear fleet capable of launching powerful intercontinental missiles. It's true that American capabilities are unique when it comes to military hardware, but on the opposite side, there is no ordinary opponent. Both China and Russia have the potential to emerge victorious in a confrontation against Washington. First, let's focus on the historical rival. Putin's country is nearing 2 years of invasion into Ukrainian territory, and although it hasn't achieved the expected success, 2024 presents a great opportunity to pursue its objectives. Similar to the United States, this is reflected in an increase in military spending to advance Moscow's interests. In 2023, military expenditure was $82.6 billion, and for the new period, the figure rose to $111 billion. It's even the first time that the government of this country will invest more resources in war than in social matters. In this way, Putin seeks to finance new developments for future battlefields, as he has been doing with his latest generation laser weapons. The first ones could already be seen in Ukraine, and the goal is to continue perfecting platforms like the Peresvet cannon. Although the technical characteristics of this weapon are classified, it is known to be a strategic laser designed to disable enemy space objects at altitudes of up to 1,500 kilometers. Experts indicate that they can blind satellites and affect both unmanned aircraft and cruise missiles. It could even be an ally against enemy planes and helicopters. This is how it looks. Another example is the Zadira. The weapon has been used on Ukrainian soil to eliminate drones at distances of up to 5 kilometers. Thanks to its power, it can burn down small autonomous aircraft in just 5 seconds, and it becomes a more economical alternative than launching anti-aircraft missiles. Like its potential rival in the West, Russian forces also add to the new technologies all their already known developments: the advanced T-14 Armata tanks, their own fifth-generation fighter jet Su-57, and a naval fleet, which includes an aircraft carrier, numerous submarines, and large attack cruisers. Finally, we have to talk about the growing power of China. In line with the other two countries that occupy the military podium, it is not surprising that the Asians also make a strong bet on military spending. China will invest $1.4 trillion in modernizing its navy between 2024 and 2028, with the aim of achieving naval supremacy in the Pacific. Since 2020, it has surpassed the United States in the number of ships, but the Americans continue to dominate in terms of tonnage and capabilities. That's why Beijing is now aiming for more technology, including nuclear submarines with intercontinental missiles, cutting-edge destroyers with high-energy weapons, and new aircraft carriers. Regarding the latter point, the country already has 2 carriers, and soon the third, named Fujian, will be added. This is the largest and most modern aircraft carrier built outside of the U.S. territory, including the use of electromagnetic catapults, something only used by the modern American Ford class. The future challenge for Chinese forces is to achieve the development of nuclear-powered ships to definitively match capabilities. To achieve this, the construction of the 4th ship of this type, which will seek to add that feature, is already underway. China's alternatives in the event of a possible conflict conclude with new advanced weaponry on all fronts. If we look at the aerial aspect, China also has its own 5th-generation fighter aircraft, the Chengdu J-20, which has had complications during its development but is a powerful option with several stealth capabilities. Furthermore, on land, Chinese forces rely on pieces like their Type 99 tank, equipped with a 125mm caliber cannon and an automatic loader ready for battle. At this point in the analysis, we can assert that 2024 will be a year of tensions between the United States and its most powerful rivals. However, despite Washington having the best military equipment at its disposal and continuing to increase military spending, China and Russia are not far behind. Thus, a simultaneous confrontation could mean the end of American dominance and a shift in the global map. Now, it's time to bid farewell, but before we do, we'd like to hear your opinion. Who do you think would win a war between the United States and the allied forces of Russia and China? Thank you very much for joining us. We invite you to stay tuned to our channel so we can meet again in the next video.